I'm so happy to have you here. This is my goal is always to have um, to have the you become familiar with the lords of the seven rays. They're not very well known, and yet the I have um, I'm I'm having some personal experiences with them just by virtue of the fact that I've presented their information, and I'll present that right at the end after I present the information on Lord Lanto. Today, the Lord of the second ray is Lord Lanto, Chinese. Every lifetime he ever had was Chinese. And interestingly enough, his lives started in Atlantis. He is the Lord of the second ray. And in this case, it's the yellow ray. It's the ray of wisdom and knowledge. Just like El Moria was the ray of power and will, this he is the ray of wisdom and knowledge. And it's very, very intriguing. The his particular initiation is with the crown chakra, and his gemstone is either the yellow diamond, yellow topaz, or yellow sapphire. And interestingly enough, I wear an orange topaz, which obviously has yellow in it because orange is a combination of yellow and red. So I found that rather intriguing. And obviously, his gifts are bringing us words of wisdom and words of knowledge. You're going to see that uh, there's similarities with each one of the rays. One of the similarities, besides the fact that they each share a different color of a great ray, is the fact that each one has its own special retreat, etheric retreat. And in the case of Lord Lanto, it's in the Grand Tetons. And the Grand Tetons are where Jackson Hole is. And the one time, I'm not a skier, so I've never flown to Jackson Hole to ski. But the one time we went, my husband and I went on a geological expedition to climb mountains, was at the Grand Tetons. And I remember a sign in the airport at there. They said something to the effect of, "Welcome to the world's most either vibrant airport, most interesting airport." And I had to laugh because I thought, boy, you've got that right. From every window, you saw mountains. You were surrounded by mountains. And so in the in the case of Lord Lanto, his retreat welcomes all the members of the Great White Brotherhood. And like I mentioned last time, the Great White Brotherhood is the brotherhood of white light. Has nothing to do with race or color of skin. It's called the Great White Brotherhood, but it's the Brotherhood of White Light. And also the special presence in the etheric retreat are the seven rays of the Elohim. The Elohim are the creator gods, and they are right under supreme creator, prime creator. And the archangels are also enshrined there. And in the etheric retreats, classes are held. I don't know if any of you have ever had the experience where you have felt like you've taught all night, or you've been a student in a classroom all night. Chances are that you were in one of these etheric retreats. This one especially welcomes classes for the students that are wanting to seek counsel with the great rays. And the thing that I loved about this, it said that tens of thousands of life streams from all continents come here, and that they obviously come here in their etheric bodies. But if you ask for it, if you simply make a mental note of wanting to go into a particular retreat, then you will be granted, but also ask to have the memory of it. And hopefully you will be able to get up in the middle of the night and write down notes, because you have been awakened, and you know that you know where you are. um, it's really exciting to have the sense of being in a group of thousands of beings, and knowing that you're listening to highly esoteric, highly complex information, but you're getting it. It's like it comes in as a download, and you just get it. There's no effort in, or there's nothing that's beyond us in these when we are take part in these etheric retreats. The other thing I wanted to mention, because it's going to happen in just a few days, the WESAK, WESAK festival, the first full moon in May, is May 23rd. And that is the WESAK festival takes place in the Himalayan mountains at the etheric retreat of El Moira. So these two masters seem to be, very closely connected to each other. And interestingly enough, they came in, gave me special information that I'm going to give you at the end of my presentation. In terms of past lives, like I had said earlier, he started out, the soul of Lord Lanto started out as a high priest in the temple of the Divine Mother in Lemuria. There's probably, it's so interesting, because one of my clients lives in Hawaii, and we started talking about Lemuria, because the Hawaiian Islands are the tips of the mountains that graced the continent of Lemuria. And so they obviously, when the continent sunk, that was all that was left. That's why any one of you who have gone to Hawaii recognize immediately that there's something very different. You can go to any island in Hawaii, it doesn't matter. There's a peacefulness there. Unfortunately, there seems to be a lot of tension now. They seem to have, at least according to what she explained to me, the client that I had yesterday said that there's a lot of tension, and a lot of it is political, both in the education system as well as the political system, in terms of what is acceptable and what isn't acceptable, what can be done, what can't be done. Okay, so his Lord Lanto had his first lifetime on this planet in Lemuria. Second lifetime, a high priest in Atlantis. Unfortunately, the high priests in Atlantis abused their position. they used the power from a giant crystal to sink Lemuria. They just sunk it, and they in turn were sunk themselves. I'm not exactly sure what happened to sink them, but obviously there was some type of retribution that caused Atlantis to sink. Um, so he was a high priest in Atlantis. Then his third lifetime, he was known as the Yellow Emperor Huang Ti around 2704 BC. And that was the original golden age of China. And he taught his people how to make fire. He gave them wheeled vehicles. He gave them weapons. He gave them bronze castings, wooden houses, and he was considered a paragon of wisdom. Then in 1105 BC, he became the Duke of Chao. Which was considered the contemporary golden age of China. And as Lord Lanto, he was born in approximately 600 BC, and he was the contemporary of Confucius and the Buddha. And he ascended approximately 500 BC. So he lived for approximately 100 years. The beautiful thing about Lord Lanto, and I hope I can express this well enough today, inside your heart lives a threefold flame. The threefold flame is just like the fleur de lis that is represented in the courts of France. And in the iris flower also represents the fleur de lis. But as he held so much light in his heart, and he was so fond of the Trinity that the light that was in his heart actually glowed outside of his physical being, so that people could see the glow of that light that he carried within his heart for the Trinity. I thought that was an amazing feast. So he held that God consciousness, and for centuries. And while everyone was trapped in density, he invented, as Lord Lanto, he invented paper, he invented printing, gunpowder, bathing. Apparently, they didn't believe in bathing, and noodles. And he also established the Silk Road. And the Silk Road, or parts of it, still exists till today, because that was the major trading route between China and the rest of the world. It actually, all the goods were able to come from China to the rest of the world through the Silk Road. Okay. So the special qualities of Lord Lanto was that he raises, by you, let's say, trying to merge with his personality, trying to merge with his characteristics, trying to, just call on him to be part of who you are. He will, he raises that flame of illumination in your heart. And so every soul who shares his love with the golden upward path of the Buddha who speaks of mindfulness. That's the special characteristic of Buddha. And mindfulness is nothing more than staying present in the moment, not living in the past, not living in the future, being present in the moment, because the present moment is the only moment that you have. And this is something that I think more and more and more of us are recognizing. There is no past, there is no future. It's always now. It's always now. So he was one of the keepers of the flame, and he played a role in helping Sunat Kumara, who is our planetary logo. And I have a special book that Shar Bowman was kind enough to give to me on the planetary logo. This is a being who holds the energy of the whole planet within his being. He is larger than the planet. And so just imagine, and again, it has to do with the Christ consciousness, the condition of the sense of unconditional love. Okay. And Lord Lanto, he said, from a spiritual plane, helped Jesus bring the people that Jesus taught back from their very darkened minds. Jesus was born into a community of people that were called the Essenes. Their characteristic was that they dressed in white. They had certain dietary laws. They had certain fasting laws, and they had certain uh, many uh, laws of that related to consciousness. So Lord Lanto actually assisted Jesus in his work, but from the spiritual plane, and he wanted he his main goal is to give us a love of the Trinity and a love of that inner flame that lives within us, so that that inner flame also grows. The thing about the inner flame is that is your connection to God. It doesn't matter what role you chose on this planet. Hitler had an inner flame. It might have been very diminished. Stalin had an inner flame. It also might have been very diminished, but it can never be extinguished. You can bring it down to make it very, very small, but you cannot extinguish it. And so one of his purposes is to bring, is to bring the understanding of that Trinity, that the inner flame of the Trinity to each person. And okay, Lord Lanto also assisted the efforts of Saint Germain when Saint Germain in the 1930s released the I Am teachings. I know that I have one of the books of the I Am teachings. I haven't been reading it recently. I'll probably have to pick it up because this has kind of reminded me that I have kind of neglected that part ever since the macular degeneration last 2 Aprils ago kind of got a grip on me. I cut my reading down considerably, but I am getting shots in my eyes, and I have noticed that I am able to read much, much better than I had in the past. I can even read in a dim light, which before, if I didn't have a huge bright light shining on the words, I couldn't read the materials at all. So I know I am getting better. But how he also helped Saint Germain is in Saint Germain's characteristic of the violet flame, bringing the violet flame. And I always envision the violet flame as a giant bonfire that when I do a healing on somebody, I'll put that violet flame over them and I ask that the violet flame effectively take every single negative characteristic, transform it into love, and move it to its next place of evolution. So Lord Lanto was instrumental in helping Saint Germain do that. This is kind of interesting. On October 30th in 1996, which is contemporary, very recent, he was granted a special dispensation by the Karmic Board that he would put a mighty transcendental golden flame over every single university and every single college, every single divinity school, every single theological school in the world whose students and faculty would be receptive to knowledge from the higher spheres. So that's not just the earthly knowledge, but spiritual knowledge. And so he's done more to try to get the blending of minds to accept the Christ consciousness, to accept the condition of unconditional love. His warnings, he issued 3 warnings, one of which I don't quite understand. So I'd be curious to see if you have any uh, comments about it. He says, beware of false prophets who preach hellfire and damnation. The prophets, and I would say not only prophets, but preachers who do nothing but try to slam humanity into a place of guilt and sin is what he's railing against. That is not necessary. He also warns, beware of false teachings for those who lust for power. And boy, do we have that. That is so evident on this planet right now in such a big way. And then the last one that I haven't had a chance to meditate on it, but this is the one I don't quite get, and I'd be curious to get what, if anybody has any comments on this. Beware of karma dodgers. And I thought, how do you dodge karma? I thought karma is just going to happen. I used to call karma a payback. My guide said, absolutely not. There's no payback about it. It's a balance. It's just balancing one lifetime against another. But how do you dodge karma? So if anybody would like to offer an opinion, I'm certainly open to it. One of the, as I was preparing this too, one of the things that came to me at the time I prepared this originally on Lord Lanto was that protests, peaceful protests, do tend to influence the happenings of the world and do tend to change, because I happened to attend the University of Michigan at the same time that the original Vietnam protests were taking place. And the first televised protest took place on the University of Michigan campus. And I can remember watching it and being kind of puzzled because the first ring of protesters were absolutely against the war. The second ring of protesters were against the protesters. The third ring of protesters had blank placards up. And I thought, well, isn't that weird? It's like, I don't know what I stand for, but everything that I have learned about the escalation of the Vietnam War was that when Nixon and Kissinger evaluated what they thought they wanted to do with sending more and more and more troops out there, and they evaluated it against public opinion and all the protests that were happening across the country, they realized the public would never support their actions. So I thought, wow, that to me is so that was so significant. And the other thing too that crossed my mind, the hippie movement, because that started in the 50s. And in the 50s, the flower power, the flower children, but the drug culture, it was like they got the LSD. Every single thing that they were doing, these flower children, was a search for enlightenment. They got the message, but they didn't know how to interpret it. So they interpreted incorrectly. They thought that they could find enlightenment through drugs. You do not. You find enlightenment through your own meditation within, through your own ability to change your thoughts from negative to positive, to see things, to see things in a different manner than you've seen them before. So, but one of the at that time, um, there was still a thought, and I think it still prevails today, that war is inevitable. And but yet these that when it came down to the Vietnam War, um, that was not accepted, that war is inevitable. So anyway, if you want to see a movie that captures that era perfectly, the 50s and 60s, and probably the 70s, maybe into the 80s, I recommend that you watch Across the Universe by Julie Taymor. I know it's still out there. Uh, I probably last saw it maybe 10 years ago, but it's phenomenal. It's just very, very well done. So, the getting back to Lord Lanto, his suggestions on how to work with him is he says to invoke his flame daily. You have a flame that lives inside of you. I've always seen it. He's his is golden. I've always seen it as a blue color. I've just always visualized the flame as a blue color. So, but he says, invoke the flame daily on behalf of yourself, your family, and the youth of the world to bring order out of chaos and to not only for personal order, but for planetary order, so that our planet not be this hotbed of misery, and that it is, because again, the commonly held belief, war is inevitable. So, and his second suggestion is to meditate on his electric presence, and so that you expand the golden flame inside of you. I haven't tried this yet because, like I said, I always see the flame as blue, not gold. So I'm going to have to try to see it as gold and see what happens with that. And then he also suggests that you listen to the music of from the Song of the Evening Star, which comes from the opera Tannhauser by Wagner. Okay. He says he recommends that you go to the Tower of Christ Consciousness through the words, and just very simple words. And you've heard them many, many times before. I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man can come to the Father but through me. And again, when this comes from my training in A Course in Miracles, when Christ said those words, I am the way, the truth, and the life, he did, and no man can come to the Father except through me. He was talking about the Christ consciousness. He was talking about unconditional love. He was not laying a guilt trip on humanity. He was not giving um, men the, all I keep hearing is the word right or command to set up a religion in his name. He did not want to be glorified. He did not want to have a religion that uh, said that my way is the only way. Because again, if you stop to think, every religion has some version of that. My way is the only way. And some of the religions also will say something like, and if you don't believe my way and follow my way, I have the right to kill you. So, this, I know that when Ireland was in the grips of the Troubles, uh, it there was what 35 years of Catholics against Protestants, Protestants against Catholics. To me, that's idiocy. But again, hopefully that will never happen again. But I'm not sure. Um, I think part of what's happening in Gaza and Israel is has everything to do with religion. Okay. Let's see. One one other thing is that he speaks of the twin flames. He asks that we perfect the matrix. And what the matrix is, there are movies out there called The Matrix. They kind of get it right, but I see the matrix as the fabric of the universe. It's kind of like the grid system against which everything else is built on. And the matrix exists within us as well as outside of us, so that every single piece of the matrix where there is an intersection, there is a point of consciousness at that intersection. And every single time we make a decision that, let's say, we held a grudge against somebody, and then all of a sudden we go, well, I can let that go. Out of the clear blue sky, I can let that go. That point where that grudge was held will go from dark to light. And that light then will spread along the lines and start to illuminate other points. So, this is why the grid work of what we are, that, what, how our bodies are formed and how everything else in the universe is formed, is how we are able to. I mean, this is one of the reasons that we can communicate with everything, because the same matrix that our bodies are made out of so is everything else. I wish I could explain it further, but that's about uh, the only thing that's coming to my mind at this moment in time. Um, let's see. Uh, he also says that he speaks of the twin flames. Um, I didn't prepare anything on the twin flames, but I do know that people get really hung up sometimes on my twin flame or my uh as if, geez, if I could only find my twin flame. uh my sense about that is that your twin flame can be in your life already, but is in your life as your worst enemy, not your best friend, not your lover, not the thing that makes an easy way for you, but your worst enemy, because it's through your worst enemy that you're going to find your way to clear out the garbage that has been holding you back. And because eventually it just I guess the best way I can explain it is you get tired of feeling bad and you don't want to feel bad anymore. So therefore, the throwing out negative thought after negative thought after negative thought is not the answer. And when you can change that to positive thoughts, that's when you recognize that, okay, I can do better than this. I know I do want to cover this, and I do want to give Teresa time to do this. But both Lord Lanto and El Moira came to me in the middle of the night, and Lord Lanto, I'm going to cover this first because this is absolutely critical. He said, the things in your experience where you had knowledge, but you did not use wisdom was, then the first one he used was Atlantis. They sunk a continent and they in turn were sunk. They had phenomenal knowledge, no wisdom. Second thing that he mentioned was the asteroid belt. Asteroid belt circles on, just like the Earth circles, just like all the planets circle. And occasionally an asteroid lets loose and, hits, uh, goes into our atmosphere. Um, it's an asteroid that struck the Yucatan Peninsula that caused the 2 years of the sun being blocked out. The asteroid belt was originally a planet. But those people were so warlike that they literally blew their planet up. And we have been, this is through several writings that I've read, is that we have been promised, the Galactic Council that monitors our experiences has promised us that we will not, and God has promised us that we will not be allowed to blow our planet up. Because that's where, again, tremendous knowledge, no wisdom was used. And goes in keeping with the Star Wars. I don't know if you remember the escalation of the nuclear bombs that was happening, and when Nixon, was it Nixon? No, Reagan, when Reagan was president. And there was a huge nuclear buildup to the point where people, even priests, were protesting and being jailed for protesting. Knowledge, no wisdom. Another thing that Lord Lanto gave me was the atom bomb. He said, you learned how to split the atom, but you didn't use it for peaceful purposes. You used it to end a war. You claimed, obviously we claimed, that there was no other way, that the Japanese would never surrender, that they would fight to the last man. And so the excuse was, we've saved 1 million lives by dropping the atom bomb. But for the people that it was dropped on, I saw pictures once and faces melted. I can't imagine living with the horror of the uh, of, of what radiation did to those people. Again, this is knowledge, not using wisdom. Science, he goes, science has much knowledge, but they're also extremely arrogant, that they have, they seek power over instead of power with or power for. And so they also, they're so rigid in their thinking. COVID broke through one of those rigidities, because COVID, the push for COVID was, we can't take 10 years to develop a vaccine for this. We have to get it very much quicker. So they discovered that the vaccine was available within 8 months. And at least it stopped that horrendous march of, you know, 6 people meeting for dinner, and 4 of them within a month had passed because they were infected with COVID, which was common stories at the time. And this surprised me, but he said, family secrets that keep you in a state of deception where you don't know what's really happening are also an experience of knowledge with no wisdom. You know, the people who are keeping the secrets are not explaining to others so that others then make bad decisions because they don't have the full facts in front of them. But anyway, that's those were the things he gave me. And I am Elmoira. um I do have, I'm going to give Teresa 20 minutes. So I do have, I think, about 6 more minutes. So I'm going to give you what Elmoira gave me when he came in at the same time that Lord Lanto gave me, because Lord Elmoira's qualities of the Blu-ray are power and will. So he goes, examples of abuse of power was to replace a democracy with an oligarchy or an autocracy or a dictatorship. And again, look at our landscape right now, which is there are people that are championing those types of rule. Um, so that's the abuse of power, because that's using power without applying the will of God. Elmoira said, building a campaign on lies is also power without using the will of God. Killing a president to keep him from revealing what he knew about the secret government was an example of using power without the will of God. On a personal level, he said, ridiculing those who bring forth about any information about anything new that's currently, it could be a breakthrough in a scientific thing, but it also could be about spaceships, and it could be about experiences that you've had with extraterrestrials, and just applying 100% ridicule for that, and saying that there's nothing to this is an example of utilizing power without the will of God. declaring war on another country. Complete example of power without the will of God. And then these are really all four of them fall into the same category: mob violence, gang violence, political violence, or family violence. Again, terrorizing people by abusing power, not applying the will of God. And the last thing that he wanted to say was holding on to grudges from the past. Apparently, that, I guess, from those who monitor us, recognize that that's a real problem. I never really quite knew that. But just holding on to grudges keeps your energy and your vibrational level down and everything. I think this is building campaigns on lies. I wanted to put this example in when I had number 2, using lies instead of truth. And don't take my word for it, do the math. Tell one lie to one person. The first day, you have 2 lies. Second day, 2 lies to 2 people. You have 4 lies. The third day, 4 lies to 4 people. You have 8 lies. By the time you've gotten to 35 days, 35 billion lies have been spoken. That is why lying is so dangerous and why it is so powerful. So, and like I said, don't take my word for it, do the math. Very easy, just double the numbers as you go down in number 1 from 35. So seeking power without adding the will of God is what is causing our world just to be in the state that it's in. And I think Elmoira, I found that both of these beings were extremely adamant about their point of view and extremely adamant that I share it. They said, get this message across. And now we're going to finish up with, just like I did with last month, Shar Bowman had a personal experience. I discovered Teresa Jones has had a personal experience with Lord Lanto. So she has been so kind that she's going to share this with us. And I really am so appreciative, because to me, bringing this to a personal level is because these are not well-known beings, and bringing it down to a personal level is so, so important. So Teresa, thank you.
Thank you very much, Alice.
Okay.
So when I became a minister with the Rays of Healing Church, I studied with Wanda the Lords of the Rays to find out, why was our church called this and what did that actually mean? And so in the broadest context, they're not individuals per se. They are energy streams that take the white light and break it down into things that we consider colors. Every one of us is unique, so every one of us will see this a little bit differently. And I thank Alice so much for sharing what she has received, because it's very helpful for all of us to hear that and start thinking, well, is that what I received? Did I get something a little different? And then also just the fact that she's doing the series, because as she said, people aren't very familiar with them. So I think it's very helpful to have a structure and to start thinking about, what do each one of these individuals and what they represent bring to us in our daily life. So looking at Lord Lanto, since that's who we are talking about today, Alice has already talked about the issue of wisdom and knowledge. So he is going to be somebody who can help you develop a higher attunement to your frequency. As you know, everything is energy. And so when you develop a higher frequency of energy, you increase your capability to determine and to discern things that are beyond your human body, beyond what you think is possible. You become more sensitive to the energies that are around you, and you start to sense things that perhaps you had not sensed before. So I liked dealing with Lanto simply because it's yellow, and that to me is the sacral cauldron, that part of your energy system, which is your energy furnace that is located in your hip area. It's kind of like visualize your hips holding a cauldron of energy within which the swirling Kundalini energy that is your essence resides. When you can strengthen that and you deal with Lanto or anybody else who's yellow, for example, Archangel Jophiel is also a master of the yellow ray. So every color has a taste. So if you just take a daily practice to sit down and think, meditate on, for example, what does the yellow color mean to me? What is it going to be bringing to me? Where do I see it? You might wear it, for example, that day, just to bring in the essence of the yellow. And start thinking about how do you build the yellow energy within you. It's called your Sahu in many different traditions. And it is actually a little bit below your belly button. And that's where a lot of the yellow energy is going to start coming into your body, and you can identify it. So Lord Lanto is somebody who you can, as Alice suggested, actually study with. You can ask to go to his retreat in the Grand Tetons. You can ask to go to anybody's retreat. Before you go to bed at night, think of yourself in a cocoon of energy and put an intent there that you be taken somewhere to learn what you need to know at a particular time. Everything that you ask for will be delivered to you in exactly the correct manner. And so when you think of the great power that you have to create magic in your life, this is one way that you can do it. So you can start taking a look at all these lords of the rays. Look at Lord Hilarion, for example, who is green. You can start thinking of all the elementals, the big green guy, Archangel Gabriel, people who are associated with green. What can they bring to you? So I think it's wonderful to take this opportunity, as Alice is going through this with us, to prepare for each one of her talks with doing a meditation on the colors and what they might bring to you. Because what I think Lanto is telling us is to understand the words, understand the facts, gain the knowledge, but more importantly, it's to feel the energy behind the words of the knowledge, to absorb that knowledge, to absorb the wisdom behind that knowledge, and then to radiate it out. So when you radiate out the yellow ray and you radiate out the wisdom, you affect everybody around you. And that's going to be your contribution, perhaps, to some person that day that walked by you and felt the wisdom that came from you. You may not know that it hit that person, but maybe that was exactly what they needed to see or feel at that moment. So it's the idea of knowledge and wisdom and compassion into your body and then radiating it out. And that is going to raise your own vibration. It's going to affect people around you. The world is going to be changed one person at a time. And so why don't you start it with yourself? And this is a nice series, I think, to give you a basis for exploring a lot of different concepts that maybe you didn't think that you would explore before. And you could obviously do a lot of research on this too. So who's the next one, Alice?
Okay, number 3 is Paul the Venetian.
Okay, so what I would suggest is that when we do Paul the Venetian, you think about him, you read up a little bit about him, take a look at his color. What does it mean to you? Find out the knowledge that he's giving you. What is the wisdom behind that knowledge, and start to radiate it out. And then next time we meet, it'll be a fascinating discussion because I think all of us are going to have some insight that we gained from that exercise.
Super, great idea. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Well, thank you. Getting back to what my let's see, what was the one that I puzzled on? I was puzzled
Oh,
about
yeah,
beware of karma dodgers. When
carbon dodgers.
did anybody get any ideas of what a karma dodger is? Because
I think you were thinking of draft dodgers when you were talking about hippies and the Vietnam War.
it could be, so maybe that's karma dodger, maybe that because you're right. The only time you really heard the word dodger was with draft, a draft dodger,
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
thing that made me think about karma dodger is like someone who doesn't do the shadow work, doesn't do the inner work, doesn't change, doesn't evolve.
Okay. Just wants to coast, in other
Just
words.
wants to coast through, avoid the pitfalls.
Yeah, that's a good point. And
Spiritual bypass.
yeah, and I will tell people, because there are times where when I listen to what they have had to go through, it's awful, in this lifetime. And then I get a past life reason, which gives me a reason for why they're experiencing what they're experiencing. And they understand and I understand, but it still is awful.
Yeah.
But somehow or other, by you just knowing that, okay, I can change my attitude about this. I don't have to, I can remember there was one phrase that came out of uh, Frankel's book about the concentration camps, is that those who were determined to live survived, but those who weren't left quickly. And so that somehow or other, no matter what you've been dealt in this lifetime, what you chose or what you chose for yourself, that you have enough spiritual help around you to get through it. And you can find a way to change your attitude about it to make it easier for yourself. And Teresa, that's a terrific suggestion to read up a little bit before you even come here, just to get a little bit of a jump start on who this is, because they I mean these lords of the rays were hounding me for months before I set the schedule up. Donna and I set the schedule up for this year to present them. They want to be known. They're very real. Their retreats are very real, and hopefully some of you will start traveling at night into the retreats and start getting some wonderful, wonderful experiences that you want to share with us. Okay, anybody else? Anybody would like to share before we leave? Any comments? Okay.
I do.
Hi, Nancy.
Hi. I just wanted to say thank you for doing this. I have been searching for community and I've found other places and different groups, and they just have never felt, the same vibration, I guess. And this feels very much like safe and a little bit like home. So, and this is my first time I've ever, interacted with you guys. Um, and I really appreciate it. I think I've connected with Saint Germain, which is crazy because I've never even heard of him. And then my friend told me about like the violet flame. And so anyway, so I like looked at it and then I landed in pranic healing. And then I was like, oh yeah, I've done pranic healing. Like I know what this is. And then I went on Meetup and then I saw your thing and it was like the 7 rays. I was like, okay, obviously like I'm being led to something, so I got it. So anyways, I just wanted to say thank you because I feel like for me specifically, it feels like it was divine timing.
Fabulous, because Saint Germain is the Lord of the seventh ray, and that's the violet ray, you know, so
Mhm.
he will be my last one. He'll be
Yeah.
talked about in November, but that's fantastic. I am so pleased. And I certainly welcome you. It's, I am absolutely so happy to share all of this. I originally presented these maybe 20 years ago to Rays of Healing. And, you know, but that's a long time ago. So anyway, all right.
Thank you.
Anybody else want to comment? Um, okay, then we will say good night and had keep Wanda in your prayers, keep Melvin Smith in your prayers, and any other people that you may have put, you know, offered Reiki to today.
Yeah.
It's really, really important that they get through this. Especially for Wanda, this is the 6th member of her immediate family that she has lost. So this was her son's wife, but because she lost, I guess, her mom, her dad, her brother, her sister, her husband, and now her daughter-in-law. So this pretty intense for her. And yet she pulls through for us. You know, she missed one session, and then but that was it. She showed up for all the other teachings that she had to do, so, or that she was scheduled to do. So I really appreciate that. And everybody have a great week. May 23rd, WESAC Festival, full moon. So just kind of make a mental note of that. Okay. In the Himalayan retreat. So
Buddha's birthday.
is it?
Yep, that's
Oh,
what WESAC is.
is that what it is? Okay,
Mhm.
I never got that. Thank you, Teresa. That but all I know is from the presentation last month is that all the ascended masters come physically to the earth in the Himalayan mountains to celebrate, you know. So that's kind of neat.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alice, so very much.
Thank you, Al.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Bye-bye, all.
Bye,
Bye.
everybody.
Thank
Good
you
to
so much. Bye-bye.